What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Love for the Game. Man, do we have a video today? Woo, I cannot wait. Alright, if you watched last video, you know what we're talking about. The greatness of the mid-range jump shot. Ooh, just gets me excited talking about it. I love the mid-range jump shot. Man, a good midi. Oh man, if you guys know ball, you'll know how tough a good midi is. Alright. So it's a big conversation in today's game. Is the midi still around? Is it beneficial? Analytically, the midi is not. It's not what it used to be. All right. It's not all analytics though. Anyway, so I wanted to start by breaking it down. You know how the midi used to be back in the day when it was more, a more regular shot. All right. So originally, right, it was not even a lot of mid-range jumpers back in the day, even without the three-point line, because it used to be just big men basketball. Really, you had guys like Will Hakeem, Bill Russell, where it was real big men dominated, and of course there were guys that could shoot. That was a thing. I mean, in basketball, people can shoot, right? But I really want to say that one of the first guys to really change the game with the midi was actually Larry Bird. Larry Bird's one of my all-time favorite players. I just love that midi. I love that mid-range jumper. All right, and that was his bread and butter. All right. So the great thing about a solid mid-range jumper is it actually opens up more for your team, right? So back then, the mid-range wasn't shot like it is today. I mean, like it was a higher volume, right, of shots. And but it actually opens up more for your team, right? So let's say you're playing through one guy, right? You're playing through, in this instance, you're playing through a Larry Bird, okay? If you're like back in the day when it was big man basketball, all you did was load up the paint, right? So then you didn't have guys around you that could, do stuff for the team. But what the mid-range does, it brings players out, right? And then see the court is more spread for slashers and better shooters. Another thing the mid-range does is it really proves their efficiency, a player's efficiency. To like being able to shoot like 50+%, which would be ridiculous, from the field is absurd, right? And so you look at guys that shoot a ridiculous percentage from the field, those are the game's best players, because they can do more things on the court, because you know what I mean? Like they can drive, they can shoot, right? Whereas just being able to drive, you're limited to I hate to say it, look at Russell Westbrook, right? One of the most talented players of our generation, right? But when he gets older, he's limited because he never developed a three ball or a mid-range jumper, and he can hit it like any guy in the NBA, super talented, right? But that's just not his game, you know what I mean? So players that don't have to rely on their athleticism, I'll bring it up right now. The greatest scorer of all time, in my opinion, I'm going to say it. Kevin Durant, the greatest scorer of all time. Not greatest player, right? This is my opinion. And he's done some great things in his career. He's done some negative things in some people's opinions. But what he can do is score. All right? He shoots the highest percentage from the field out of any of today's players' games. And he's been doing it for 20 years, almost 20 years, 15 years, right? He is keeping, not single-handedly, which we'll get to more players today, but he's keeping that mid-range game alive, and man, I love to see it. And he's scoring 40 points a night off the midi, and he's shooting a ridiculous percentage. All right. So back to what I was saying. So Larry Bird saved basketball, and him and Magic. I want to give all the credit to Magic as well. They saved basketball. It was a dying sport, right? Because it was such a stereotypical game where it was run down the floor, score, run down back, and then you got good defenders back then, but it was all rim protectors. The best defenders were rim protectors. They weren't, hands-on. Like you look at Bill Russell. And so what Bird and Magic did is they just completely changed the game, right? Now you got a 6'9" floor general who's running the floor, dishing out to his teammates, which is similar to like what Bird did, but Bird was able to dish off that mid-range because it was so dirty that when players had to come out, he was able to swing and cut, and it opened up, so much. Also, that Celtics team was just incredible. You got, Kevin McHale, one of the greatest power forwards of all time, which people don't talk about either. If you know ball, you know Kevin McHale. But again, Bird and Magic, the Lakers team was dirty as well. And then Jordan came in, and Jordan made a living off that mid-range. And something I'd like to see more of in today's game, where players are more, I wouldn't say more athletic, because there were definitely some monster athletes back in the day, but more trained, like stability-wise and things like that, where you just have a lot of good athletes. They know how to train versus, how people were just more natural-born athletes back in the day, where, like, you don't need to rely on your athleticism, you know what I mean? I'd like to see some of these young guys in the draft. AJ DeBansa, he looks great, but he doesn't have a great shot, you know what I mean? You want these guys to develop a good, be able to do more things, which if you can't tell, I'm a Celtics fan. Jaylen Brown, look at last year. His mid-range and his three ball has gotten insane, and that's what I love to see is when players don't rely on their athleticism, because it's not a huge factor in today's game anymore. You still need the size, obviously. Well, you could argue that. I'll probably talk about it later on or in a different video. I could go on and on about ball, man. It's what we're here for, the love of the game, right? But no, Jordan, man, he made a living off that mid-range, right? And because he was so athletic, people were so scared for him to get in the paint that he could pull up just before, full sprint, boom, pull up for the three, or for the midi. And again, he opened up so much for his team, right? Off that mid-range, because he was so good. People were so scared for him to get inside. So he's dished into a cutting Pippen, right? Or later seasons hitting Steve Kerr for that open jumper. And then the game slowly became more into focus on, wow, we need guys to shoot more mid-ranges, right? And so that's where it was for a while in the league. Early, 90s, mid to late 90s up until probably 2010 is where it was real mid-range dominant. You had guys like, Kobe, who was Michael 2.0, made a living off middies. He had a great three ball too. And we'll talk about three-point shooting in another video as well. I hope you guys enjoy. But man, bigs, like power forwards, that's when the game really started changing. Tim Duncan, KG, man, KG coaches, man, coaches are pissed seeing KG pull up from a foot inside the three-point line. He always is stepping in. But yeah, it opens up so much for your team is what I want to say, really. And you can tell how good a player is based off, how often they can hit that mid-range shot. I just love a good mid-range. Alright, sorry about that. I had to pause my video. I don't know if you can tell if it cut. But like I was saying, you can tell how good a player is really with the volume, not the volume, but the percentage, their efficiency, what I should say, from the field, right? You shoot a high a high mid-range percentage, more than likely you're going to be a really good player, because that means you can do a lot on the ball. Like, they know you can do a lot on the ball. But a lot of great mid-range shooters are not the main scorer. So a lot of times they're moving off ball as well, which is the great thing about today's game, which is underappreciated. And I'd like to talk about today's game now. We were talking about how the mid-range was in the past. Now about the present, right? So today, analytically, the mid-range is a terrible shot. Not a terrible, but your coaches will not be having you shoot mid-ranges a lot. It's funny, though, because although it's a negative or a poor shot, statistically, you look at all the best players in our league right now, and what do they shoot most of? Most of the best players in our league right now shoot a ridiculous amount of mid-range shots, right? Like, I can name a couple of guys just off the top of my head. Shea, right? Love him or hate him, Shea is an extremely talented player. I can't stand the flopping, right? I've accepted foul baiting is a part of our game, okay? I didn't mind it when Harden made a living off of it, scoring 40 a night. So I understand drawing a foul, right? It's just the flopping on non-fouls that I don't like. But regardless, Shea is one of the best players in the NBA, right? I mean, I'm not going to take away from his talent. And he is shooting almost entirely mid-range shots, honestly. He can shoot three-point shots, but he shoots a very, very low amount of threes. Actually, for the amount of times he touches the ball, I want to say Shea shoots the least amount of threes out of any star player on any team in the NBA right now. I wouldn't quote me on it, but he's definitely bottom 5 for star players. Like, besides, Giannis, trying to think, Zion, guys that rely heavily on their inside game. And then we have, another example is Jalen Brunson. Just won the finals. Shoot and make a living off middies. And I think he's the best example of, in today's game, what the mid-range still does for players, right? Because Shea shoots a high volume, and I think that's more of so because he just feels comfortable in the mid-range, and he's so good he can, create space and just get it off, right? But Brunson, to me, watching him play, it seems intentional that he's shooting mid-ranges, not more so because he's comfortable, but because of what it does for his team. Because now, in today's era, it's all positionless basketball. Almost every team is positionless, so you have, unlike, back when I'm talking about Larry Bird, right? And you're running through Larry Bird, and then you have, maybe some cutters. You got Kevin McHale at the rim, Robert Parrish. You have all, mid to high 20s, 30% three-point shooters on your team. Which, I mean, if you don't watch ball, you wouldn't know, but 30% from three is great. You want mid-30s is great, but 30% is still great. So the thing about the mid-range in today's game is because the defense has gotten so much better, and everything switches. So everybody's switching off everything. So when you there's no switch for a player cutting inside. That's just the defense collapsing. You have to double, basically, unless you're an elite defender. So what that does is open up, it creates an open man. That's when you swing. And then what New York does great is they have the double big lineup with Mitchell Robinson and Cat. So you always have rim runners as well. But that's how they're getting open looks every time, is because of the mid-range. And so analytically, it may not be a great shot. It's still really impactful in today's game. I'm trying to think. I'd like to talk about Kevin Durant more, but I think Kevin Durant's my favorite player of all time. I think he might deserve his own video. But I'd like to hear. Let me know down in the comments. Like, if you guys want to hear about different teams, different play styles, players, anything you guys want to talk about. Again, this is the love for the game. I love this game, right? I mean, I could not get sick and tired of talking about basketball. So if you guys are still here, which, no worries if you're not. I've been rambling. I just love ball, right? So if you're not here, no worries. But if you guys made it to the end of the video and you'd like to see anything else, please let me know down in the comments. And if you like what you see, drop a follow. But no worries if not. I appreciate you guys for checking in. And let me know what you want next.